Hello viewers, welcome to Top Notch Online TV. With you today is none other than Teacher Fidelis of Alliance High School. I'm a teacher of English, an author and an editor. With me today, I have Teacher Rispa. She's from Kikuyu High School. She's a teacher of English, an author, and of course, an examiner. Now students at home, we're still using a silent song and other stories, and we're still discussing the story Ninema. As you have remembered, in our previous episode, we discussed the plot, a summary of Ninema, as well as the themes that we have in this book. And we shall just have a continuation of the same story, of the same discussion, and we shall be looking at the characters, the characterization, so that you get to know how these characters behave and the traits that they have. After that, we shall be looking at a sample essay question using the short story Ninema. To start us off, we have these characters in the story. We have Ninema. Ninema is the main character in the story. We have Mr. Chinran, we have Mrs. Singh, we have Dr. Siddharth, we have the lady hawkers, and the attacker. Remember, in our previous discussions, we said that whenever you want to talk about the character traits of a certain character in a story, then you use an adjective. Remember to use an adjective and then talk about how they behave. What can we learn about these characters and not who they are? So we don't expect you to talk about Ninema as a beautiful woman because, yeah, we know that Ninema is beautiful, but we don't learn anything about her trait in that aspect. So when we look at Ninema, what can we say about her character? Just to take you back in the story, remember she wakes up so early at 4 a.m. in the morning to go to the garden to get her herbs. So number one, we're looking at Ninema as being hardworking. Not everyone will wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to get her herbs, but she does that. She goes to her garden and she gets her mint and dania and arranges them well in her basket. The next thing we can say that Ninema is optimistic. She has so many challenges. She doesn't have running water in her house. She washes her face and feet with cold water. She washes her hair once a week, and she actually takes a bath just once a week using hot water that she warms on the open fire. Despite all these, she keeps dreaming about having a home that will have hot running water, a home that will have a kitchen inside the house, and a large garden where she would grow her herbs. So despite everything that she's going through, she doesn't resign to fate. When we look at Ninema, whenever she's working and arranging her herbs in the basket, we see her sighing, but we're told that these are not signs of giving up. They're signs of saying, okay, this is my situation, but I want to make my life better. Next, we see Ninema as a respectful person. Why is she respectful? She treats all her customers with respect and appreciation. The next example that I'll give you is of Mr. Chinran. Mr. Chinran goes to buy herbs from Ninema because he is infatuated with her. But Ninema doesn't treat him differently. She treats all the customers in the same manner, so to speak, and she is appreciative of what they do for her. The next thing we have on Ninema is that she's bold. Remember the journey, Ninema's journey home when she's attacked by the man. She takes her champal and just beats the man up. And when our teacher was discussing the themes in this story, Ninema, we see that not many women would actually do that. You would be so scared that, you're walking home, it's at night, in the evening, and someone is attacking you, but Ninema takes the initiative to defend herself. The next thing we can say about Ninema, she's focused. How do we see her focused? When she goes to the market, she does not engage in talks or chats with other women. She just focuses on her work and arranges her herbs appetizingly for her customers. The next thing she does when she's at the stall, we see that she takes some tea to work with her, but she doesn't drink it until her stall is well arranged. Of course, this is a person who is focused. Last but not least, on this same trait, we see that Ninema is a beautiful woman. She has a cinched waistline, her sari drapes on her beautiful body, her hips moves as she moves as she is going to the market. We see both men and women admiring her. Everyone stops and stares, but she doesn't get this attention get to her head. And because of this, we see her business acumen keeps growing. Last but not least, we have Ninema as organized. This is a person who organizes everything. Everything must flow from the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes to her stall, the way she deals with her customers, and even as she goes home, we see a person who is organized. And because of this, she's able to get more customers coming her way. And that's on Ninema. And of course, if you get other character traits, as long as you can get some illustrations from the story, then you can add. The next character that we have is Mr. Chinran. What can we say about Mr. Chinran? This is the man who is infatuated with Ninema, and he keeps buying herbs from her, even when we know that he doesn't need so many herbs. We can say that he is loving. This is why he keeps going to Ninema's stall. We see he comes from Brahmin's caste, which is a higher caste compared to Ninema's, which is a lower one. But despite these social stratification or the class discrimination, he keeps supporting Ninema. And so we can also talk about Mr. Chinran being supportive, that despite the differences the society places on both Mr. Chinran and Ninema, he keeps supporting Ninema by buying more herbs. The next person that we have and we shall be looking at is Mrs. Singh. And I hope students at home you remember who she is. This is the rich old woman who keeps buying herbs from Ninema. When you look at Mrs. Singh, she's loyal. Actually, the author talks about her being loyal. Despite her troublesome nature of haggling for prices, she doesn't buy herbs from any other person. Yeah, she goes to Ninema and keeps supporting Ninema's business. Number two, we can say that she's troublesome. And Ninema is said to have dealt with her masterfully. She knew that this woman is trouble, but I know how to deal with her because at the end of the day, she was her client. So you can talk about Mrs. Singh being troublesome, talk about how she haggles for prices as much as she's a rich woman. So she was in a position to actually pay for the herbs, but she wants to keep doing this because she wants to spend more time at Ninema's stall. Because remember, we said that she was doing this out of boredom. And next online, we have Dr. Sidat. This is another customer that comes at Ninema's stall. Again, you can say that he's very supportive. Despite his high rank, he's a doctor. He keeps supporting. He keeps supporting Ninema, and again, we can say that he's caring. He's not only buying herbs from Ninema, he takes his time to chat with Ninema, get to know about her mother, and we see him telling Ninema that he's happy that Ninema had not gone to him asking for medication for either a cold or a flu, and he hopes that it stays that way. So definitely this is a person who's caring, you know. Then we have the other lady hawkers in the market, and these are the women who work with Ninema. When we look at these women, we can say that they are affable. In a way, they chat. You see, Ninema didn't like chatting with them, but they don't hate her. They don't hate her. They're actually friendly and they keep admiring her. They're like, we need to know the secret. How does she do this? And sometimes they felt angry with themselves because they could not stop themselves from chatting, and they were not as focused as Ninema was. So as much as Ninema was not chatting up with them, then they were still friendly to her and they wanted to be like her. Last but not least, we have the attacker. This is the man who attacked Ninema as she was going home. When we look at this man, number one, he's violent because he's just harming the woman by pinching her erect nipple hard, thus projecting physical pain as well as emotional pain, because this was going out of out of line. Next, we can talk about him being immoral, vulgar. He's sexually assaulting a woman. And as if that is not enough, he asks Ninema, if you like it, then you can come for more. Because now, when he does this, why does he think that Ninema would want to have her nipples pinched? He was going out of his way to violate a woman. So you can talk about him and the way he also grins. He grins in a vulgar way, and we're told that his tone is also vulgar. So that's it about the character traits that we have in the story Ninema. And remember, we have looked at all the characters that we have. Most of the characters are minor, but remember that Ninema is the main character in the story. And so we have looked at traits, and whenever you talk about traits, ensure that you're using an adjective. And I think now we can have a discussion, Teacher Rispa, using a story, maybe using the story Ninema, and we discuss one essay. This is paper 3 work. So we have looked at the story Ninema, we have seen the character traits, we have looked at the plot of the story and the themes, right?
We have.
Yeah. So how do you actually get to answer questions pertaining essay writing? This is paper 3, the optional text, and our teacher will take us through.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Before I can start on the essay question, I still have maybe some 4 different questions that I would like to bring to our viewers' attention. I will read them out and they later be available on our screen. They later be available on our screen. You'll be able to read on the same. The questions as follows. The first one, to succeed in business, one must have the necessary skills to handle customers. Using Ninema in Patha's Ninema support this. Number 2, and if you have any problem, maybe answering the questions, you can always get in touch with Top Notch Online TV. We'll be able to help you answer the questions. Number 2, hard work and determination pays. Using illustrations from Ninema, show the validity of this statement. How true is it that hard work and determination pays? To question number 3, women traders experience challenges in their lives. Show how Ninema deals with these challenges. And lastly, number 4, Ninema is an admirable character. Support from the story Ninema. That is food for thought for you to later tackle. And if you need any help, as you said earlier, you can always get back to us. We are now going into a question on Ninema using our book, Top Notch English Guru. That is our book. That is the book that we are going to use. But before I can tackle the introduction and all, let me just do a reminder.
Yeah.
A good essay should have the following: an introduction, one, a paragraph of its own. We go to 4 different points, each point in a paragraph of its own, and finally tie it up with a conclusion. That is it. And then on to my question using our English Guru, Top Notch English Guru. The question is this: Ninema is an epitome of a good business person that deserves to be emulated. Validate the given statement, making reference to the story Ninema by Veronica Patha. First of all, you need to purpose to understand the question so that when you're answering, you are not off the mark. You're supposed to confine yourself within the question. First of all, maybe I'll start with the keywords. We are talking about Ninema. Therefore, let all your points fall on Ninema. Another thing, epitome of a good business person. A representation, an example of a good business person. And then finally, she deserves to be emulated. Question translated, you're simply asking, in matters to do with business, how has Ninema excelled to an extent we admire her? That is basically what the question is asking. And I'll give maybe an introduction from our English Guru. The introduction goes as follows: to be successful in business, a person should have rules that drive them to the success and the expansion of their business. Ninema has a lot of desirable traits in the manner she conducts her business, as will be discussed below. And just as a reminder, nowadays NEC has moved to an approach where if they mention a character in your introduction, no matter what the type of introduction you'll be using, go back to the contextualized. Make sure your introduction captures on Ninema. We've mentioned Ninema, that it is basically focusing on Ninema, and then you go to our first point. What makes, and have the question at the back of your mind, what are we really answering? You're answering what makes Ninema a good business person? That is our question for today. And to the first point, you're saying Ninema is focused on earning a living as one among those that make her admirable as a business person. Why do we admire Ninema? My first point. Ninema is focused on making a living. Then the illustrations you need to support. How do you know that Ninema is focused on earning a living? I'll go back to, and you have mentioned this during Madame Fidelis's explanation of the plot. I've also mentioned the same when I was dealing with the themes. Number one, you're saying she's focused on making a living. And I'll repeat myself and say, but don't mind about the repetition. The repetition makes it even more familiar. With Ninema, she is a woman who is good looking. The author has emphasized on that. But then she does not let her looks get to her. She is here to make a living, despite gaining the interest of the men as well as the admiration of the women when it comes to her high cheekbones. That becomes our first point. Men stop to stare, and women too admire her high cheekbones. However, it is said that she does not take the attention she gets to heart, as her concern is on earning a living. Quoted, page 14. You can find it very clearly explained on page 14. We go to a second point, and remember that a point should be introduced using a topic sentence. That is it. On our second topic sentence, what else? And we always let's have the question at the back of our mind, so that we don't end up inventing our own question and answering. With many other times you've seen a student is inventing their own question and they answer it very appropriately. Go back to the question as you're giving each topic sentence. As our second point, you're saying, secondly, is that Ninema has mastered the art of attracting and retaining. She attracts the customers as well as retaining the customer. A good business person. Someone should not buy the first day and disappear. She has a way of connecting individually to each customer. That is what we are being told. And maybe among the way of attracting and retaining the customers, I'll give an illustration. And before I can give the illustration, maybe a point to note. Don't worry that the illustrations do not delve deep. With a short story, it is not as much detailed as a novel or even a play. Therefore, once you touch on that illustration and you're able, it goes back to the book you score. When you're talking about ways of attracting and retaining a customer, I'll pick on an illustration where Ninema, there's a passerby who had never bought from her stall before, but then Ninema gives her an extra bunch of mint for free. And we see that the customer is impressed. The customer says, I'll come back another time. She has not only attracted a new customer, but she is almost, we're almost sure that she will retain the same customer. Attracted them, given them a free bunch of mint. The customer assures her, I will return another time. That is our second illustration, which makes Ninema admirable. We still have another thing as a businesswoman. Why do you admire Ninema? To our point number 3, we say Ninema manages her time well, and this ensures the success of her business. A good time manager. She operates within the confines of time. She wakes up early in the morning, we are being told. She goes and plucks her herbs, and then she heads to the market. Still on time management. It never catches Ninema unawares. First of all, Ninema is able to not drink tea until when she has arranged her stall well. And then she is set for the first customers. You don't see the customers coming before Ninema is done with arranging the stall. She comes to work, is not chitty-chatty, so that she can arrange the stall, followed by she takes her tea and she waits for the customer. That looks like a person who is a good time manager. Therefore, a third point on why Ninema is admirable. Our point number 4, and they even have a point number 5. We only need 4 points, but when we get to have an extra point, it works to our advantage. Point number 4, we are saying Ninema runs her business with an iron fist.
Yeah.
When you become a business person, when you begin to falter, today you are here, tomorrow you are there, it does not augur well. But you're being told this woman runs her business with an iron fist. There's Mrs. Singh, who is always haggling for price drops. But then Ninema does not relent to that. Please drop her maybe the price. She still maintains that, and because of that, she is able to, even someone admires you when you're firm, when you can stand by your principles. As much as Mrs. Singh, the prices are never reduced. You don't see Mrs. Singh going to another person. She still maintains the same place. Yes. And still on running the business with an iron fist. Another thing has been said that Ninema was a nonconformist. Some people began to hate on her. Why doesn't she lower the prices? Why does she have to sell herbs only? Why does she have not to chat with us? But the woman does not relent. She maintains it. Therefore, she becomes a good businesswoman. And we are being told, maybe if I could now read a bit to emphasize on what I've said. Mrs. Singh, for instance, is fond of haggling for prices as a means to spend more time at the market and dispel the boredom of going to an empty house. Since Ninema never budges, Mrs. Singh still remains her loyal customer. I'm reading, but whatever I'm reading is no different from whatever I've just been able to explain to anyone who's viewing. To our last point, you're saying, lastly, Ninema creates rapport with her customers. The place that you shop at, the one that you have a rapport with, is the place you find yourself constantly trooping back to. And in creating a rapport, my colleague was able to capture it in an episode where she talked about Ninema's relationship with the customers. We see, how does she relate with Dr. Sidat? She even takes her time to get to know about his work and all.
Yeah.
Another thing we are being told, Ninema was genuinely interested in her customers. She knew who has moved recently, where have they moved to, whose daughters had been married, and the interest was genuine. And even with the lawyer, Mr. Chindran, we also see that she treated him with appreciation and gratitude. And the man, even though he knew that nothing will come out of their relationship with Ninema, he still maintained coming to Ninema's store. That is it about Ninema. From the 5 illustrations we've been able to give, our students will agree with us that Ninema is an admirable business person, someone that we need to emulate, those that are in business. Therefore, I move ahead to conclude on our essay. Our essay began with an introduction. It's like, when you're coming to someone's house, you're knocking. What makes you not say goodbye when you're leaving? Therefore, it is the essence of having a conclusion. And our conclusion, I read it from here, will say, in conclusion, Ninema proves to be a good business person in the manner in which she conducts her affairs that leave her admirable, as has been discussed above. It is like a summary of what you have discussed in the body that makes it even an avenue towards our viewers understanding the story of Ninema even more. That is it.
Thank you, Teacher Rispa. And of course, viewers at home, at least now you have, number one, our teacher started by giving three questions. We shall be sharing these questions in our description. So as you watch this video, then you can think about the other questions that we'll post and how to actually answer them. Then away from that, we have discussed an example of an essay that we have written using English Guru, and the story at hand is Ninema. So now, students at home, we have so many questions. But as you tackle these essay questions, as our teacher has said, you must look at number one, an introduction. You must have an introduction. You must have at least 4 points in your paragraph, and you must conclude your work. So once you do that and you give various examples from the story to just reinforce the point that you have, then you'll be in a position to get a full in your paragraph. And remember, when you talk about a full, we're talking about the 3 points. If you have not watched on how to answer questions in essay writing, and how you actually score. Ensure that you subscribe to our channel so that you go and view those episodes that we have worked on. And remember, all the time we have teachers who will take you through everything that you need to know for you to get that high mark in English. And we just need to to let you know that you can actually get an A in English as you follow some of the things that we're discussing here, and you keep working. For students at home, just teaching whatever you have here is not enough. You have to write, get questions, and actually take them to your teachers in your schools and keep practicing. We say that practice makes perfect. And with that, it's a goodbye from us. Until next time, goodbye.